I step into the archives at midnight, when the building belongs only to its ghosts and the single archivist who pretends not to see me. My name is Elias. I've been restoring manuscripts here for 3 years, and in that time, I've learned to read the silence between footsteps, the weight of a glance held too long, the particular quality of air before someone tells a lie. Tonight, I'm searching for something I can't quite put my finger on. The head curator, Madeline, left a voicemail this afternoon. Her voice was careful, measured, each word placed like a chess piece. Elias, I need you to examine a collection we've just acquired. It's 47 journals from a private estate, donated through a legal firm. They want immediate cataloging and permanent restricted access. Someone's trying very hard to lock these away legally. You'll understand when you see it. I understand already. Madeline doesn't call me for routine work. She calls me when the story beneath the story needs to be read. The collection waits in the conservation room, 47 leather-bound journals spanning 1889 to 1923, each one filled with the cramped handwriting of someone who wrote as though pursued. I lift the first volume. The leather is cold, almost damp, and beneath the expected mustiness lies a chemical and sharp odor. My hands know before my mind catches up. These journals have been handled recently, and not with care. I open to a random page. The entry is dated March 1891. They think I don't notice. The physician smiles and speaks of nerves, of rest, of laudanum. But I see the glance he exchanges with my husband. I see the door they've begun to lock from the outside. They will call it protection. They will call it love. The handwriting deteriorates across the page, letters collapsing into each other like drowning figures. You've found Clara. I turn. James stands in the doorway, our junior researcher, holding 2 cups of coffee he's bought from the all-night cafe 3 streets over. He's 24, brilliant with dates and provenance, hopeless with people. He doesn't know I can see the fine tremor in his hands, the way his eyes won't quite meet mine. You know this collection? I ask. I process the acquisition paperwork. He sets down 1 cup near my elbow, keeps the other pressed between both palms. Clara Ashford, committed to an asylum in 1892 by her husband and brother-in-law, and died there in 1923. These are her journals, kept throughout her institutionalization. The family donated them through a third party. Very insistent about anonymity, I watch him as he speaks. There's something rehearsed in his delivery, a script he's practiced. And the donor's name? Legal firm. Whoever inherited the estate wants this buried in an archive where no one will look too closely. James finally meets my eyes. Madeline thinks someone's trying to hide something. She asked me to help you tonight, but I should tell you. I've already been approached. The confession hangs between us like smoke. Approached, I repeat, yesterday, a man in the staff car park. He said he represented the family's interests and that it would be worth my while to make sure certain pages went missing during conservation. Pages where Clara names names, and describes what they did to her. His coffee cup crumples slightly under the pressure of his grip. He offered me 6 months' salary. I should be shocked. Instead, I feel the familiar weight of something I've always known, the pattern revealing itself like a photograph in developing fluid. And you said? I said I'd think about it. Then I called Madeline. James looks at me directly now, and I see the question there, the one he doesn't know how to ask. She told me you'd know what to do. How did she know that? Because Madeline has been watching me the same way I watch everyone else. Because she's seen me redirect conversations, diffuse conflicts, and know things I shouldn't know. Because people who see beneath surfaces recognize that ability in others. We find each other by instinct. I don't say this. Instead, I open another journal, dated 1894. Drive Fletcher came today with his electrical apparatus. He tells me this will cure my delusions. I ask him which delusions he means, the ones where I see my husband stealing from the family trust, or the ones where I notice Dr. Fletcher receives quarterly payments from that same trust. He doesn't answer. The electricity answers for him. She saw it all, James whispers. And they silenced her for it. I turn pages, reading in fragments. Clara writes about visits from family friends, their performances of concern. She notes the small inconsistencies, the contradictions, the moments when the mask slips. She documents financial irregularities, forged signatures, and properties sold under questionable circumstances. And underneath it all, she writes about the particular agony of seeing clearly in a world determined to call you mad. They have a word for women like me. Hysteric. It means my womb wanders, seeking what it cannot name. But I know what wanders. It is my mind, refusing to stay in the cage they've built for it. It wanders and it watches, it sees and it knows. I close the journal carefully. We need to photograph everything. Tonight. Full documentation before anyone else has access. If they find out, they already know we've found something. That's why they sent someone to you. I stand, pull out my phone, and start calculating. The conservation work will take weeks. We have maybe 48 hours before they apply pressure through official channels. So we work fast, and we work smart. James nods, and I see the decision settle into his shoulders, the weight of choosing right over easy. What do I tell the man if he comes back? Tell him you need more time. People like that understand hesitation. They'll interpret it as negotiation. It'll buy us time. We work through the night. James photographs pages with a steady hand that no longer trembles. I catalogue, cross-reference, and build a timeline from Clara's observations. She was methodical, this woman they tried to erase. Each entry is dated, each name is recorded, and each transaction is noted. By dawn, we have a digital archive of everything she witnessed. At 6 in the morning, Madeline arrives. She surveys our work without comment, then locks the door behind her. The donor's legal team called the director at home last night, she says. They're concerned about the collection's fragile state. They want it transferred to a private conservation facility. The director agreed. The van comes at noon. James goes pale. They can't just. They can, Madeline says. Unless we find a reason, they can't. A legal reason. A public reason. I think of Clara's words, her careful documentation. She wrote for this moment, for someone decades later who might read and understand her words. She left breadcrumbs through the labyrinth. The journals are evidence, I say slowly. Of fraud, of illegal commitment, possibly of murder. If we can establish that, they become part of an investigation. They can't be moved. Do you have proof? Madeline asks. Real proof, not just the ravings of a certified madwoman. Because that's how they'll frame it. I turn to Journal 17, dated 1896. Clara describes a visit from her husband and a family solicitor. She records their conversation, which they held, thinking her too sedated to comprehend. They discuss the final dispersal of the Ashford family holdings, the papers they need Clara to sign, and the forged power of attorney if she refuses. But Clara also records something else. The solicitor's name is embossed on his leather folder, Whitmore and Sons. I memorize the address, 47 Chancery Lane. I write this for whoever finds it. Look there, 47 Chancery Lane, I say. James, search for it. He's already typing on his phone. His face changes. It's still there. Whitmore and Sons, established 1867. Third generation. They're still practicing. Madeline leans over his shoulder. If the same firm handled both the original commitment and this donation, then there's a continuous thread of complicity, I finish. And that makes these journals evidence in an ongoing pattern of obstruction. We have 3 hours. Madeline makes calls to a historian she knows who specializes in asylum records, to a journalist who has been investigating historical medical malpractice, and to a legal ethics board that oversees century-old law firms. I prepare a written analysis connecting Clara's observations to public records of property transfers and probate proceedings from the 1890s. James builds a digital timeline that makes the pattern impossible to ignore. At 11:45, when the van arrives, so do 3 other people: the historian, the journalist, and a representative from the Law Society. The director is furious. The legal team is on speakerphone, making threats about defamation and interference. But Madeline stands in front of the collection, arms crossed, and speaks with the authority of someone who knows exactly what story she's protecting. These journals document criminal acts that may have living consequences. The solicitor's firm named in these pages is still operating. The family trust Clara mentions still exists. This isn't history. It's a crime scene that's been locked away for a century. She looks directly at the phone. You're welcome to pursue legal action. I imagine the press coverage will be illuminating. The speaker goes silent. Then, we'll be in touch. They don't come back. The van leaves empty. 3 weeks later, Clara's journals are featured in a special exhibition titled, Voices from the Asylum, One Woman's Testimony. The historian has verified 18 of Clara's specific claims against public records. The journalist has traced 4 current board members of prominent institutions back to the families Clara named. Whitmore and Sons has issued a statement expressing regret for historical practices that don't reflect modern ethical standards. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's something. I stand in the exhibition on opening night, watching people read Clara's words behind protective glass. James approaches, hands in pockets, looking oddly vulnerable out of his usual archive pallor and into gallery lighting. The man came back, he says quietly. Yesterday. Offered me double. Said this was my last chance. What did you tell him? I told him I couldn't live with the woman in those journals looking over my shoulder every morning when I shave. He laughs, but it's edged with something raw. Is that how it is for you? Always seeing what people don't say? I think about my answer carefully. It's like having a language no one taught you, but that you speak fluently anyway. You read tone, context, and the space between words. Most people navigate by what they're told. We navigate by what we notice. Sounds lonely, James says. It is, I admit. But sometimes you find others who speak it too. And sometimes you find a voice that's been silenced for 100 years, and you give it back its words. Madeleine joins us, champagne flutes in hand. She passes them over without ceremony. To Clara, she says. To Clara, we echo. We drink, and I think about intuition, about the way some of us are built to see patterns, to sense wrongness, to know things we can't explain. They called Clara mad for it. They locked her away because she saw too clearly. But she left her truth encoded in leather and ink, trusting that someday, someone like me would read it. I'm not sure if intuition is a superpower, but I know it's a responsibility. And I know that using it means choosing to see, even when seeing is dangerous, even when the world prefers you blind. The exhibition stays open for 3 months. On the last day, I found a letter in my work mailbox, handwritten on expensive stationery. No return address. You interfered in matters you don't understand. Family legacies are complex. Some stones are better left unturned. Consider this a courtesy warning. I burn it in the conservation room sink, watching the paper curl and blacken. Then I open my laptop and start researching the next collection Madeleine has flagged for my attention. Letters from a World War I nurse who reported theft of medical supplies, then disappeared from all records in 1917. Some of us are built to read the silences. Some of us are built to give voice to what's been buried. If that's what using intuition means, then I'll take the warnings, the threats, and the loneliness that come with seeing clearly. Because somewhere, in an asylum grave with no marker, Clara Ashford is finally being heard. And that's worth everything. If you found yourself nodding along to Elias's experience of reading tone, context, the space between words, you might want to watch 10 Psychological Skills INFJs use without realizing.